Hold on. Okay, there you go. What's going on, Alex?
Welcome back to the Nightbox channel and Dirk. Warning
Well, I don't think they can be
live.
welcome. I don't think they can welcome back because this is our first episode of EDC Hour with Dirk and Alex. I'm Dirk. That's Alex.
I'm Alex. Yeah. Well,
So
so today we got
welcome
a pretty
to the hour.
yes. So I think we got like just kind of an introductory episode today, right? Like we're
Yep.
just gonna basically talk about us, which is gonna be easy to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we just kind of introduce ourselves and talk about how we got into knife collecting, how we got into YouTube, things like that, and really kind of tell the viewers and the listeners what they can expect from EDCR Dirk and Alex.
Yep, I think that's gonna do it. So, which one of us is gonna start with our introductory?
Why don't you start since you've been doing this probably a little bit longer than I have?
Well, my name's Alex. I have a small YouTube channel called the Knifebox channel. Some of you, I'm assuming some of the guys that are already subscribed and watching it, some of you guys might have seen my videos. And if you haven't, go check it out and subscribe. And I don't post daily content. I just post kind of sporadic content. And I try to do it in a fun way with a little bit of theatrics and little voiceover, a little tabletop. And that's kind of the thing that I do. I started knife collecting somewhere around, I want to say about 2012 is when I started actually collecting knives and buying them on a regular. Um, and then before that, I had probably gotten my first few knives, like everybody else in your teens. But yeah, I've very much enjoyed them and I'm still collecting them. And I also am now dabbling into watches thanks to Dirk and also thanks to my good buddy or mutual buddy, actually, Jiro. Two of his watches he sent in, never made it back home. And it just started like kind of a watch thing. And so I'm really having fun with that. So go ahead, Dirk.
So yeah, very similar. My name is Dirk, and I started my channel 2 years and 1 month ago. It was in December of 2019. And I do daily content, sadly, funly. So my buddy Rob told me, hey, if you do one video a day for a year, you'll have 1,000 subscribers. So I did one video. I started out doing one video a day. And in about 6 months, with some help from Random Rob, some help from Metal Complex, and a few other channels, I hit about 1,000 subscribers in just a little over 6 months. So I've continued doing daily content for yes, that whole time. And it's been sometimes it's been 2 videos and sometimes it's been 3. So if I do a unboxing video, that'll come in the afternoon. If I do my normal videos, those come at 6 in the morning Pacific time. So yeah, I got into knives, through Boy Scouts as a kid, and then into my teens. Kind of the standard affair. Started with a police model Spyderco back in like the late 80s when they first came out with this police model.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of hooked. I carried that daily for, I don't know, probably 10 years. So much so that when I shipped it in, I kept shipping it to Spyderco. They did free sharpening and whatnot back then. I had worn it down so much that they sent me a brand new one because they just couldn't sharpen it enough. I kind of wish they had sent me the old one back. That would have been something cool to just kind of keep and hold on to and say I wore it out. But that did not happen. So that's my YouTube kind of career-ish, if you call it that. And so what do you like to do outside of YouTube, Alex? Get a little personal here.
Outside of YouTube, I like to play with cars a little bit, and then I like to dabble with musical instruments a little bit. And I have a daughter that's almost like a full-time job.
Kids can be a full-time job, no question.
Big time, yeah, but it's still like the joy of my life, you know. And I think as she's getting older, it's been more challenging for me to post that kind of content at that level that a lot of other people do. But at the same time, you know, I feel like if I wait a couple weeks and put something together, you know, that's a little bit different. And I think it's a fun video when it finally comes out. But I really admire the guys that do like multiple videos a day, because I mean, that takes a lot of work. Even just a little bit of content I produce takes a lot of work, and takes a lot of time. And then like some of the podcasts, or not podcasts, some of the videos you did even kind of brushed on how much shipping knives back and forth cost, and how much time back and forth, you know, the post office, and the time you invest in wrapping them. Like, there's having a YouTube channel is a pretty big commitment, I think, like when you do it to the level that you guys do, you know. And then I kind of took a step back from like the old channel that I used to have, which was Alex's Knife Box, right?
Mhm.
And you know, which were I was kind of starting to work towards progressing, doing that whole like daily content, but it was too much, you know, for like my job and my time and everything else, my daughter, my family. It's better for me to do it this way, you know. That that's what works for me. And I really enjoy like trying to outdo one episode after the other, you know. I like the editing aspect, and every single video that I've outputted has a new technique of editing or some new
Mhm.
way of blue screens or green screens, things like that. So you know, it's not I don't invest as much time as like the daily post guys do, but I still, those things take a lot of time too.
Oh,
Like
for sure. Your
yeah,
editing stuff takes a lot more time than what I do. So, like, in terms of time I spend making a video, like, most of my videos are in that 10-ish minutes range, you know, anywhere from, like, 6 to 12 minutes, give or take what the knife is,
right,
and I don't do any editing. I kind of just start and I stop.
right.
I edit a little bit in iMovie, and really all I do is just bump up the volume, and then I get it posted, make a thumbnail on that, right?
iMovie.
But 10-minute video for me equals really maybe an hour, if you will, because I gotta like measure it. I gotta do a little bit of research on the knife before I film, put some
Right,
notes together and kind of gather my thoughts, edit it and upload it, which takes, you know, 5 minutes or something to upload and all that. And then responding to comments throughout, you know, that first day at least, if not multiple days.
right.
So, you know, I kind of equate a 10-minute video that I do to about an hour's worth of time.
Michael Morgan, you rock.
For
Michael Morgan.
you, that's a totally different deal.
It is a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like the same kind of time invested in a channel, but just in a different manner. But like, see, the thing about me is I could post a video like every 2 weeks, and then I could post three in a week, and then I could post one in a month. And I'm not held to myself to any sort of scheduling, which
Right.
obviously hurts my algorithm, my subscriber count, and all that stuff. But it's much healthier for me, for my, you know, the way I like to do things. I think it's actually a lot more difficult that to do daily content, because people are now having these expectations of you, right? Like, and like how you bank, you know, different episodes, and then you're like, oh crap, I'm starting to run out. Like, I gotta bump out some more videos so that I don't come to the last minute and run out of videos. And then you'll get like a huge rush of like shipment of knives, and then you're sitting on this pile and you got to decide how to evenly like review everybody's stuff so you get it back to them on time, right? Like there's all these things that you have to encounter.
There are, for sure. And like, you know, you mentioned that last minute video thing. Literally after we're done with this live, I need to film something for tomorrow morning, right? Because I am on a schedule. I post at 6 a.m. every morning Pacific time.
Right.
And then if I do an unboxing or a secondary video for the day, I usually do it at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So I was all caught up and I was weeks ahead, like a week or so ahead. And now I've got some things here to film. I just haven't filmed them yet. So yes, after we're done with this live, I will like hustle over just right next door here to another table and film a video, at least one, maybe two, for Monday and Tuesday, right?
Right.
And you touched on shipping knives back and forth. I borrow a ton of knives, not just from Alex, but from a lot of viewers and other YouTube channels and things like that. So I have to ship them all back. 2021, I spent over $4,000 shipping knives because I'm just putting all my tax stuff together in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, that's $4,000 of shipping to get everybody their knives back.
Yep.
And I have a box that needs to come back to Alex, actually. So that'll be going out this week because I've done. I just need to get them all boxed up, spend 15 minutes boxing it up, print a label, and, you know, all that good stuff. So look at that. Jiro's on. We were talking about earlier.
There he is.
So yeah, Jiro's one of my watch friends who's sent in watches and knives and bought knives. And yeah, so I think watches and knives go very well together.
So Jiro is actually a friend that I made through Dirk. And then what's funny about that is that there's 2 watches that he sent in on 2 separate shipments. And one time, one of those watches in those boxes never made it home. Like I was like, how much? You know, like I liked it so much. I like that titanium G-Shock was one of them. And
yeah, great watch.
And the Tron was the first one. And I think the one that really started it all was when me and you traded the Quiet Carry, and then I ended up getting the Seiko, the Arnie.
That's right. That's right.
And I was like, man, you know, this thing's kind of cool. It's solar. And I'm like, I think I need another one, you know? And then I got the Tron, and then I got the titanium. I kind of started high and tapered down a little bit. But
yeah, the Arnie was a great watch. I ended up with 3 different versions of that at one time. And then I've ended up now trading and selling them all off. But that was one of the most comfortable watches. I put it on, instantly comfortable, and just super rugged, and just, you know, just a great watch. Though that one's kind of one of those ones that I kind of miss selling.
Yep.
But yeah, you've gotten really into watches lately, almost more so than knives.
Yeah, in the last 6 months, I've only purchased probably maybe like 4 knives.
Okay.
And I think I'm at 40 watches.
40? I don't even have 40. And I've been collecting watches for 3 years now.
Yeah, but I don't have like high-end stuff, you know, like
I think that's and you guys that are watching or whatever or listening, you know, shoot a comment over when you started into knives or watches. I'm guessing most people kind of start off slow and then ramp up, right? I mean, I started with, you know, a lot of Benchmades. I had my brother had a coworker that was a Benchmade dealer. So we got some good deals and, you know, whatnot. So I bought a bunch of Benchmades, and then I just started escalating as I learned more. And when I got into watches, it was very similar. I had 4, 5, 6 Seikos, and then it started to escalate. And
The
yeah,
Seikos will definitely do it, man.
like a gate.
Yeah. I think I have more Seikos than any other brand right now.
Here's a good question from Michael Morgan. What's the stronger addiction, knives or watches? And don't and for Alex, don't think about just your current thing, but just in general.
The same.
I think they're about the same too. I think they're different. Like they're the same level of addiction. But
you could buy a $30,000 watch and you could buy a $30,000 knife, right? You could buy $100,000 Medford.
Oh
and you could buy a $100,000 watch, you know, although I would think that more people will be willing to spend $100,000 on a watch, and it's a bigger world than knife collecting by far. And it's a lot older of a collecting world. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think for me personally, Michael, what's more of an addiction, knives or watches? Right now, for me, I think it's watches, because in March of last year, I bought my Frank Fisher Battle, and literally still to this day, and it's sitting here on my desk, this has changed it changed me. I literally have not really wanted a knife since then. Like, I mean, there's a few that I want to get in 2022, but it changed me. So now I am more personally into watches, I think, than I am knives, so to speak. So then Jiro has a good question. He's very proud of your 40 watch collection.
I saw that. I was laughing.
And what do your significant others think about the money involved in your hobbies? So for me, it's my girlfriend, and we don't live together, you know, whatever, but we've been together about 5 years now. She literally just kind of rolls her eyes. She has probably the strongest eyes in the world because she rolls them so often at me. Yeah. She doesn't care. Like, it's my money, not her money, you know, whatever. So she doesn't really make fun or say anything negative. She just kind of shakes her head, rolls her eyes, and chuckles. And I don't really tell her maybe exactly what everything costs, just because she would not understand.
Right.
What about you?
I don't. Yeah, no issues.
Okay.
It started off like I think slow, like maybe. Well, I wouldn't say slow, but it started low budget and then started increasing, and then after that, I was just truthful. Like, oh yeah, how much was that one? Well, it was $1,200, and then I'd get that, you know, quick look, and then be like, and that was it, you know.
Well, and I think that's good, and for anybody new to the hobby, whether it's new to watches, new to knives, really spend what you can afford to spend. Like, don't feel like you need to. Like, there's some great knives that are under $100, under $200, no problem. And then there's some great knives that are over 5,000. Same with watches. Like, one of my favorite budget watches is the Casio World Timer, the Casio Royale, which Alex is building some fancy ones. But they're $25 on Amazon, and they're awesome.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love my Rolex Air King and some of my other higher end watches, but I still wear that World Timer from Casio for $25, even though I have other quote unquote nicer watches. So don't get hung up on the price, and don't overextend yourself because, well, everybody talks about this knife or that knife or this watch or that watch. It's a progression. You kind of work your way up to them, I think.
So my deeper dive into watch collecting is about 6 months old. It's really new, right? Not that I didn't know anything about watches prior, being that my last name actually is a Swiss watchmaker's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've always played around with a couple of those and a couple, other watches here and there. And I've always found them to be good tools, especially in the military. They were kind of a necessity. But now in this 6 months of like diving into it, they're really, really, really fun and interesting. But like I have a lot of friends that are telling me, well, why don't you try this one? And oh, look at a Doxa and look at a,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I'm getting there, but I'm enjoying my like study climb into watches. Like I'm still in the Seiko stage, Tissot's, Hamilton's. Like I'm kind of like right there. It's not that I couldn't maybe go a little bit better, but like I'm enjoying just staying there for a while and kind of looking at the whole kind of price range as a whole, right? Like the steps of collecting.
Right.
Because
And there's nothing wrong with those brands that you named off, Seiko, Hamilton, Tissot. Like those are good. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
Hamilton makes a fantastic line of inexpensive and expensive, right?
right,
So as does Seiko. Some of the
right.
Seikos are up there. And then you can go into Grand Seiko and things like that. So I think there's I don't know. A lot of people say budget knives, budget watches, but get what you
That's
like.
subjective, right?
It's very subjective. It really is what a budget is. And so when I've done budget, quote unquote, budget videos for budget knives,
Right.
I don't know what my budget might be different than Billy Bob's budget and Susie Doozy's budget. So
Well,
how do
it's
you
funny. It's funny we talk about that because it brings me back to when I had my old channel.
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing a video once where it was like I think that video was probably 2 or 3 years ago, but it was like what I called the knife bag of shame. And I have this
Right.
bag of knives that have what I consider shameful knives of like my knife collecting that I've just kept, things that could never sell or they're too ugly, but they're kind of weird and interesting. Like
Mm-hmm.
things from Quartermaster. I have like two Quartermasters.
Okay, yeah.
I have like a couple of Macustas. I have a couple of these things. So I did a video and it was like one of those knives. They're all sub like 100 or whatever. And somebody said, well, they made like a comment basically saying that they were offended that I made this video because they would be honored to own a lot of those knives,
Right.
and that I called it the knife bag of shame. And it's I didn't get mad, and I couldn't really disagree because everything's into whatever perspective of the through the eyes of the beholder, right?
Right. And I
Uh,
think that's good feedback.
but it was, yeah, it gave me like, it was food for thought, and I
Right.
thought to myself, it's kind of true, I guess. But then even when I did a sub $100 video, I got another thing. I mentioned budget, and somebody's like, well, $100 is not a budget knife to me. I'm like, well, get over it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think across the board, the 100 and under is what's generally considered budget knife.
Right.
So and I try, I try to be respectful of everybody's budgets and things like that. And, but uh, yeah, I don't know. So
Well, I'll tell you
Josh,
what,
go
you'll
ahead and
never,
comments.
for sub $100, like you'll never see knives like you see them now. They're full of great steels and great
Yep.
features, for great build qualities and variety too. You can collect them all, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, you could really go kind of anywhere. You
So we
have
got
a smartwatch.
a couple of comments from Josh. Do you have smartwatches? That changed my opinion on watches. Now I put on the same watch every day. So for me, I did try an Apple Watch for a few days. A buddy at one of my old companies bought a brand new one, was going to sell his old version. So I tried it for a few days, connected to my iPhone, all that. And it didn't really work well for me. So part of it is I'm right-handed and I wear my watch on my right hand. So
Right.
a little bit backwards from traditional maybe. And so I had trouble manipulating my watch with my left hand, right?
Right.
So that's why the Apple Watch didn't work for me. And now when I was doing triathlons, I did use a Garmin GPS training watch as a smartwatch. So, but it tracked my cadence on the bike, my laps in the pool, and my run times, all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not into smartwatches. Have you ever had a smartwatch, Alex?
Nope.
All right. So then Michael Morgan says, what steel is most common among your customs?
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
That's a great question. For me personally, a lot of my customs have San My Damascus, and I couldn't tell you the actual makeup. Yeah. So what about you, Alex? What do you think?
I have a lot of CPM 154. That's a common one that I have a lot of in my knife box. And I like that steel because it takes a really nice polish. And it also takes a very keen edge, and it's actually pretty stainless. It's got a lot of stainlessness into it. And then I have a lot of, quite a few in Chad Nichols Damascus.
Yep.
And then I have quite a few in, excuse me, I'm propping my phone here so I can see some of the comments. And then I have quite a few in Damasteel as well. That's kind of like the thing nowadays, right?
Right. Yeah. Now, what are your thoughts on Damasteel versus Damascus? I like the look of just a regular traditional Damascus more so than most of the Damasteel I've seen or I've owned, because I do own some, is kind of more, not mirror polished, but it's more polished and shiny than the Damascus, which is more subdued. And for me personally, I like the subdued look a little more than the brightness of Damasteel, for the same reasons I don't like mirror polished blades.
Right. Well, I mean, that's actually a good subject. Well, Damasteel is a powder metallurgy steel, right? So it's not folded like Damascus is.
Right.
And then when you dig into a lot of the common Damascus, or I'm sorry, the common Damasteel ones that they use, they make different ones. They make like core Damascus. They make like layered stuff, and most of it is basically AEBL and PMC 27. And PMC 27 is basically just a little bit more like CPM D2.
Okay.
So it's hard. It's a hard tool steel, good for cutting, but it's not super stainless, right? It's got more carbon in it. And then to offset that, they do the powder metallurgy with the AEBL, is what I think I remember it being, which is very, very, very stainless and very common in like cutlery steels, a lot of kitchen knives and that stuff. Because of that, it takes a very good edge as well. So you got kind of a mixture going on, which I think is cool. But when you're going more to like Nichols Damascus or like some of those other darker etched ones, you're talking about more of a higher carbon content. That's why they etch the way that they do. And that's why you can almost feel the layers when you're rubbing your finger against the blade.
Right. Yes.
Because they're literally like stack folded and forged that way, right? So it's a whole different ball game when you go from powder metallurgy to like stacked Damascus. And I really like the effect of both. But I think I just kind of got tired of Damascus steel on knife blades a little bit because it's become like the go-to jewelry steel blade now, and I still prefer like a good old Damascus, because if you have a knife steel that has a lot of high carbon content, it's more of a blade that's designed to take a little more abuse. You know, it's a harder edge, and it's going to have more longevity, in my opinion. Um, you know, the only difference is it's going to corrode a little bit easier. So you kind of have to manage that with, you know, oil, which is not a big deal. Even as a novice knife collector, you should always know that you should oil your blades, even if they advertise that it's not stainless, especially if you have like a lot of knives that you store and that I have like a lot of experience with.
Mm-hmm.
The knife box. So, um, yeah, oil everything, you know, and use mineral oil. You don't have to buy like crazy fancy stuff. I usually use mineral oil or gun oil for storage on all my even expensive blades and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's
And you've got a lot in storage because you have a lot more knives than I do.
I have some.
Yes. So, so what is your goals for, or do you have any for 2022 as far as knives or watches, as purchases, as, hey, I don't want to buy anything this year, I do want to buy stuff this year. Do you have anything picked out?
I have so with watches, I'm gonna probably mention two that I'm kind of looking at right now. I'm highly considering a Doxa, and then I'm also looking at a Skin Diver 60s remake by Yema, and then I'm also looking at the Hamilton khaki mechanical, but the ones with the bronze case, that limited edition one. So
Okay.
those are the three watches I'm kind of like thinking about right now. And then knives, I am currently shopping for a billet for a JG Scout V2. And then I have a build with Jim Skelton on a fixed blade that's going to match my my Tron G-Shock.
That's right.
And then I also have about 4 other book spots.
Wow. Okay. So I don't know if I can compete with that, but my
But
goal.
that's probably it, though. Like no more after that, you know.
Okay, so my goal for 2022 was like maybe 2 watches, and I'm in a group of like a small group chat with some other watch collectors, nuts, whatever we are, and we kind of loosely bet each other if we could buy 1 watch a quarter. And then we kind of changed it to just you can buy 4 watches in the whole year. So I don't know. I haven't bought a watch yet. I've got 2 watches. They're kind of expensive ones that I'm looking at for this year is probably another Rolex Yachtmaster later in the year, and then maybe the Omega No Time to Die Seamaster Professional. So those are the 2 watches that I'm looking at this year.
Fancy.
And then for knives, I don't know what I want. I want to get one of the VC Edge interfaces.
Very cool.
That full carbon fiber. The blade is carbon fiber with just a little bit of the steel for the cutting edge. Super cool. I got one into review. I fell in love. I've talked to Jason, the owner, many times, you know, the maker many times, who lives down in Southern California also. And just for you that don't know, Alex lives in Southern California and I live in Northern California. And so I definitely, he and I have talked about doing a kind of a fancy one with like Damascus and stuff, and then a normal one. So I may end up with 2 of those. And then maybe really just 1 other knife that I'm not sure of yet. So, oh, and Seven Ready chimes in with his VC Edge is amazing, and he loves his number 22. I've seen your video a couple of times on that one. When I was getting mine into review for loan, I did watch yours, 7 Ready, and great video. And yeah, they're awesome knives. If you guys haven't seen them, I have them on my channel, and I suggest I'll put a link to it in the description once this video uploads later, just so you have access to it, because it's a very cool knife to look at and to check out. It's 3.5 plus inches, like 375, I think. Don't quote me because I don't have it in front of me. And it weighs like 2 ounces. It's amazing.
I like this one right here, Michael Morgan. Do you guys get by with just stropping, or do you send the customs for sharpening? That's a good question, actually. Both A and B. And C, I resharpen a couple myself too.
Yeah, for me, I don't sharpen, I don't strop, I don't do nothing. I have a good friend who sharpens, and I have sent him customs to sharpen and regular knives to sharpen, and or I will send them back to the makers. I'm not even going to attempt. I made some mistakes in Boy Scouts, and I know those were like $20 knives, but it haunts me. I had a bad experience.
Here's another one. I heard Doxa, so you're into dive watches. Do you have any Japanese dive watches? I do. I have a bunch of Seikos, and I have even more Seikos. Those are the Japanese ones. I think I have a couple other ones, but I can't quite remember, but not too many. I'm kind of playing around more with the Swiss stuff. Dirk?
I currently have 2 Seiko dive watches left in my collection, and those were both Seiko mods that Random Rob did. One he built for himself that I was able to convince him to sell me, and then the other one was a collaboration between Random Rob, Loom Shot, and I funded it. So
that was awesome.
I still have those 2 in my collection as far as Japanese divers. I think that's it. And then now I've gone to Swiss stuff. I've got Rolex and Omegas.
Nice. All right. So
I think you said you had some questions or some notes you were putting together earlier today.
Yeah, actually, I kind of have them all right here. So
okay.
So yeah. So basically, I think a couple of the things I think, usually when people are doing introductory, some of the things that I think would be some good questions. The first one being, what was the first knife that started the collecting? I know you had the Spyderco for years, but what was the one that you bought one and then like a couple weeks later you bought another one?
Yeah, the Spyderco started me out, but that was really, I didn't know there was this whole knife collecting world at that time. I really bought the police model because I thought it was cool, and I literally carried it daily to cut cardboard, cut wire, just used the heck out of it. As far as kind of collecting, I think it was when I got into Benchmade stuff, partially because I had my brother's friend who was a Benchmade dealer, and so we could get him easy and cheap and just meet him and pick him up and off you go. So I think Benchmade is really when I started buying several. And then I went to a knife show and I bought a Medford and I bought an Eric Kramer, 2 customs at the same show. And I took a friend with me who was supposed to be the guy to not let me get into trouble. But he actually encouraged me to buy both. He says, it's just money. Buy them both. And I'm like, okay. And I met Greg at that show, and I bought a Marauder, and I met Eric Kramer, and I bought a custom Reaper that I still have that one. The Marauder I have since sold, but the Eric Kramer Reaper was a kind of a one-off for him because it has ironwood is the backspacer. So it was amazing. It was a very cool knife that I still have. So I think the Benchmades, and then when I got the Marauder and the Reaper, it was downhill from there.
Right. Well,
What about you?
for me, it was it was a Benchmade actually. I
Okay.
um, I remember it was a Benchmade monologue. Was it 755 or 751 monologue tie? And basically, it's a really kind of thin. Nah, it's not that thin, but it's kind of a sleek Benchmade that had a single thumb stud. It had these
Okay.
massive bearings on it, and it was like titanium slab, liner lock knife, kind of like a
Hmm.
Spenza on bearings, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And it had this hideous pocket clip on its tip down carry, and yeah, it was actually right now it's with Rotten Design. At some point, he's going to mod it and regrind the blade and do all that. But that was my first knife, my gateway knife that started me collecting. And then the one that I bought maybe 3 weeks or a month later was a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. It was a
Okay.
digital camo one, like the most common
Right.
S30B version. And it just kept going from there. And so it's kind of where it started, right? Like Benchmade and Spyderco, like everybody else, which is funny.
Okay. And yeah, a lot of the comments here, we've got a Victorinox, a Buck 112, um, the
Classics.
leak, the leak,
I have the lead.
Benchmade was their gateway knife. I think Benchmade is really a gateway knife. I
Yeah,
really think that's true. So I don't think you can go wrong really with any knives. I mean, and we kind of talked about budget knives earlier, maybe a gas station budget knife, but in today's world, budget knives, there's so many $50 knives that are made with great steel, great material, and really good craftsmanship. It's amazing.
yeah. I think my golden rule with like if you want to buy a knife and you just want one ultimate good working knife that's going to last you for years to come. I think
Hmm.
the right price point back in those days was probably like $200 to $300 to
Right.
buy like something all titanium and M390 and bearings, right? Like one good knife. That was the idea actually with the Benchmade. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna spend $300 on a knife. I'm like, I'm just gonna go for it and just do
Right.
it, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
and then when I started reading, people are spending like five, six, $800,000 on a knife. I'm like, well, I don't think a cutting tool needs to cost that much, right?
Oh
But
boy.
yeah, but that's
I
where I
think
was
we've all set a price. I set a price in my head for a knife. I'm not going to spend any more than X on a knife. For me, it was $500, right?
right,
And as soon as I mean, that obviously was a lie, or else I wouldn't have the Frank Fisher battle.
right.
But once I bought a $900 knife, it was all over, and it just kind of blew up from there. I did see a good question there. That's the question I was going to go look for. Seven Ready asks, any of you two have a Sharp by Designs mini Tempest coming? And I think, well, I know I do not. Alex?
Why, yes, I do. I do have one of those coming. Yes, I do. I'm bummed that it's not the carbon plate though. For those of you who don't know, this is one of Brian's new designs, and then when I get better at the screen thing, we'll start flashing more, internet shots and stuff. But the Mini Tempest is basically a knife that's produced by Riot, and it's a mini version of the custom Tempest, and it's actually the first production knife that Brian has done with Riot that is a front flipper. So it should be kind of exciting with his. I'm assuming it's going to have his usual detent nub, style, but now on a
Mhm.
front flipper. So that's kind of what intrigued me about getting one. It's got that similar aesthetics like the other, like the Typhoon and the other ones, but it's a little
Right.
bit smaller than the custom. The custom's like a full size almost 4 inch blade, I think, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if the original one was a front flipper. I think they came in thumb studs and maybe a few front flippers in the custom, but not the norm, you know. So yeah, coming in. But then
Right. Perfect. And then we
yeah,
got to come in here as a left-handed guy. I like lock bars in general, so not sure I will go much farther. And I think that's true. And speaking of left-handed guys, Alex is kind of ambidextrous, I think I would call you.
yeah, I'm a lefty, but I do a lot of things with my right hand. I shoot right-handed. I manipulate a knife right-handed. Like some things. So one for some and some for the other.
Mm-hmm. And then Blood Groove says that he splurged on his gateway and got a Jerry Moen mongoose. I
Oh, that's a
reviewed a
good
couple of
knife.
the mongoose, and those are super cool.
Is it a fixed blade or is it a folder? Because he makes both, and I really like both actually. He
I
does
have
this,
reviewed the folders. Blood Groove can chime in if he's still around as to whether he got the fixed blade or the folder.
yeah, I like that dark mirror polish that he does on his blades. Looks really
Yep.
sweet. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Folder mongoose.
Folder
Nice.
model. Yeah, the folder is very cool. I didn't even know what it was until a viewer sent it in for me to check out, and I was super impressed. And it's been something I think I've wanted to add to my collection. I just have never pulled the trigger because they're a little bit smaller than what I normally carry, but
Right.
super cool. Oh, now he comes back and says he's got both.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are sweet. Yeah, it's very unique blade shape, kind of like a spear point. Very, very cool knife. They've been around for a while too.
Yep.
I see them on Knife Center every once in a while. I think DLT sometimes has a batch of them. Very cool knife from a cool American custom knife maker.
Absolutely. And, we've got a lot of people chiming in with different price points, Diver Dave's in that $100 price range. I think Michael Morgan up here says he's still under $300 price range on knives. Guys,
Perfect.
that's a perfect spot to be. There is so much good stuff under $100. Like Michael Morgan even says here, he just got a $28 I don't even know how you pronounce that. Stitiven Barlock. I
I'm
mean,
not gonna try.
For $100, guys, yeah, you can get a lot of good knife. You really can. Same with watches.
Yep.
Really, you don't need to spend a lot of money. Please don't spend a lot of money if you don't want to spend money. Don't feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. I think a lot of people do fall into that trap,
Yep.
and that's just not a good spot to be. It really isn't. Much like Alex and I, we have our own YouTube channels. I do content every day. He doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to feel like he has to do a video every day and be on a schedule. And so he's not trying to keep up with me, and that's great. And we support each other in that. So yeah, get involved in the hobby the way you want to be involved in the hobby, not the way other people are in the hobby.
Right.
So a quick question to you, Alex. Have you bought anything in 2022 yet? I mean, we're 30 days in.
Yeah, I bought a watch.
What did you buy?
I bought a Yema diver watch. It's actually a collaboration with Watch and Wound. And I got the 40 millimeter maxi blue dial. And it's got a beautiful bracelet that didn't fit because the lugs were fixed. So like the lug to lug, I think was like 58 millimeters. So it kind of like, for my wrist, it didn't work. So I ended up getting original Tropic straps, diver straps, and they were really soft, pliable. I think they're vulcanized.
Okay.
And they work perfectly. So now the watch fits me perfectly. So that is my first purchase of this year.
Cool. I'll talk about my first purchase in just a second, but I wanted to go to Jiro's comment about, do you guys have many left-handed knives? I personally don't. Even though I'm right-handed, I've kind of wanted a left-handed knife just so I could say I had one in the collection. But I do not have any left-handed knives. And Jiro's left-handed also, if I recall.
Yeah, that's right. I think he is too. And
do you have any left-handed knives?
No, I was thinking about trying it because I'm a lefty, just buying like a lefty Sabenza or something like that, but I haven't done it yet.
Got it. So I did break down and buy my first knife of 2022, maybe what, a week ago ish. A buddy on YouTube, on Facebook reached out. I had made a comment. He had posted a knife on his channel or one of the Facebook groups. And I said, oh, that's cool. And like 5 minutes later, he reached out. He goes, hey, dude, it's for sale. Do you want to buy it? I'll make you a special deal. Dude, that gets me every time. Like, I got to stop being the nice guy. I don't know. I got to stop that. I've spent a lot of money with people just reaching out to me, asking me if I want to buy something. So I bought the Swiss Champ XXL.
Oh my gosh, look at that thing.
It's almost a square. For those of you that are watching, I mean, I know some people are going to listen later. It's about as wide as it is tall. And I haven't done the full video on this yet. That might be what I filmed this evening. But and I was familiar with the Swiss Champ. I bought a Swiss Champ.
I have one of those.
A million years ago, actually bought it in Delaware. It was the first black one I'd ever seen. And I carried this and a Leatherman out installing and doing field service work for many, many years. And I could do almost all my work with just those two tools.
Yeah.
So when the XXL Champ was available, I kind of had to get it. It's a very expensive conversation piece that's going to sit on my office desk, but it's very cool. And there's literally 73 different tools inside of it.
MacGyver could take over the world with that thing.
Oh, God, dude. MacGyver could break into the White House, the Pentagon, and everything else with just the XXL.
Yep, yep.
If you buy a left-handed knife, then you have to rearrange everything in your pockets, no?
That's a good point, right?
That is a good point. And I know I know a couple of left-handed Medford guys. Two of them come to mind that are in a small group chat with me. And they both carry their right-handed knife turned around the other way in their left-hand pocket. And they are able to manipulate the right-handed knife perfectly fine with their left hand. They've just learned how to do it, and they say it works great because Medford made like maybe 5 or 6 left-handed knives, in its entirety, probably.
I'm reading some of these comments here. So, what's the Pioneer XLE?
I'm not sure what that one is.
This I'm kind of interested in because I keep seeing this $28 watch popping up in the chat. I'm like, I want to see, or is it a watch or a knife?
I believe that's a knife. Yeah.
Now I'm like interested in this because I can't say the name. And,
right.
Yeah. And then there's like a big old Seiko with a Pepsi bezel right there. So I'm kind of like, I keep looking at that.
Yeah, and then go to Blood Grew's next comment. Dare you to use that XXL Champ as your keychain? I mean, funny enough, it has a keychain ring on it. So yeah, this could be my new keychain knife. I don't know. It's not going to be. It does fit in my pocket, but that's all that fits in your pocket.
So I guess that thing is a limited edition Pioneer with scissors. It's only built in 2022.
Oh, interesting.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, Diver Dave says, Dirk, is that ultimate Swiss knife? The champ is already pocket unfriendly. So my Swiss champ, I carried in its normal leather sheath on my belt, is how I carried it when I was out working with it. And it worked great. It is a little pocket unfriendly if you were to pull it out of the sheath and carry it in your pocket. The XXL champ, from what I understand, is not even the biggest one that they make. They make one that's like 6 or 7 inches wide, something ridiculous. Again, sometimes I think we get into collecting stuff just because, you know, I mean, I have some impractical stuff. I've got a Phil Harvey Peacemaker. That's my most impractical knife that I own. It's 2+ pounds, and it's awesome. It's so ridiculous that it's awesome. So I think, you know, collecting for practicality's sake, once you start collecting, practicality kind of goes out to the window, I think.
It sure does. It sure does. Yeah, and trying to make sense of being a crazy collector, don't do it. It doesn't. You'll never. You can try to talk yourself into stuff, though. You know, like sometimes you could be like,
"Yep,
well, I kind of need this one because and you'll make up something, right? Like, oh, it's gonna go with my watch, or oh, it's gonna go with this collection, and you can always keep going and
yeah,
going.
we can rationalize a lot of stuff, but we're just lying to ourselves.
Yep.
And we're making stuff up. So now I just kind of default back to the 12-year-old boy in me wanted the XXL champ, and so that's what I got. Michael Morgan says, what was the Wolverine auto knife? So I did a video a little bit ago. That was a Reese Whelan. That particular one, I don't remember the name. I'd have to go back and look at my own video. It was loaned in from a very good friend of mine back east. And yeah, it's awesome. But again, not practical. It's not something you can even carry. It's something that you own just because you are a crazy collector. So, and we've got about 5 minutes, guys. Part of, you know, our EDC hour is an hour long. And if you see right behind me over here, there is a little hourglass that is part of the channel as well. So I don't think we actually talked about what is our lives going to be about. I think it's
going to be the EDC hour, guys. We're going to be talking about EDC gear. We're going to be talking about watches. We're going to be talking about knives. We're going to be talking about flashlights. We're going to be talking about BS, personal fun stuff. And we're going to stay away from politics. We're going to stay away from drama. We're going to stay away from popular dramatic subjects. We're going to stay away from anything negative. We're here to have fun, guys. We're here to keep it cool. And we're here to also have a guest every 2 weeks. So keep posted, because in 2 weeks, 5 p.m. Pacific time, we will be launching another episode with a live guest. So that's going to be our thing as well, as every 2 weeks we'll have a guest, and every other week will be just me and Dirk having some fun, catching up, you know, on whatever we do. Me and Dirk talk usually every day, so we're going to be pretty synchronized when we do this. And I think we're going to have a good time. But yeah, that's the idea, right? EDC hour, we're going to do it for an hour only. If you know, you guys really want more, maybe once in a while we'll break that rule. But you know,
so like Alex said, I mean, we're going to try to keep it to about an hour and 10 minutes, right? You know, to kind of be respectful of everybody's time and not just ramble on for 4 or 5 hours, because I think that's kind of silly. And yeah, 5 o'clock Pacific on Sunday afternoons every other week. It will be here. And if, you know, maybe it's going to grow into every week. Right now it's every other week, and every other episode we'll have a guest. And some of our guests without naming names, because we don't have them all lined up yet, but we're going to have some makers. We're going to have other YouTube channel content creators. We're going to have some just regular viewers like you guys, some high-end collectors, the guy that's out there using his knife every day out on the street doing his construction work or whatever. So we're going to have a lot of different levels of guests that hopefully will appeal and everybody will find interesting from week to week to week.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the fun part. You know, we will mix it up. We're not going to be, we're going to try not to be too stale and, you know, whatnot. But we're going to try to be organized as far as, you know, not deeping off the dive, or how do you say that? Diving off the deep end.
Right.
You know, and going.
There'll be a little structure and whatnot, and comments from you guys. So if you've got a topic that you would like us to dive into, let us know in the comments, even, you know, after it goes, you know, after the live stops, put the comments in there, put the comments in here, shoot us an email, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, all that. We'll put in the description of this video and all the subsequent videos, links to find us on our own personal channels, and Instagrams and Facebooks and all that stuff too. So just find us, tell us you want to talk about, you know,
we will take requests.
Yeah, blade steels, you know, custom versus standard, you know, you guys tell us and we'll kind of try to work all that in, but just to kind of give you an idea of what you can expect.
Right. So I appreciate all you guys coming out and commenting like the whole time. That was really fun. A lot of participation. That was fun. A lot of names I recognize, you know, from our channel and, you know, watchers and stuff like that. So it was cool to see you guys. I don't want to name names because then, you know, if I forget somebody, then, you know, they're like, hey, what about me, dude? But all of you guys, thanks a lot for coming into the live chat and making this fun.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Really, and be sure to check out our personal channels, and we will see you all again here in 2 weeks.
Sounds good to me. So be there or be square.